In this video, I want to give you at least what I see to be the most helpful thing in terms of doing shadow work. Now, shadows are very interesting things because, of course, they're not things at all. A shadow is a sort of an optical illusion. Its existence depends on a very bright source of light and then something getting in the way. And then that is what casts a shadow. But again, it's all based on our perception. And I think Jung used the phrase shadow for that very reason, because when Jung used the phrase shadow and doing shadow work, what he was talking about is everything that we're ashamed of and trying to integrate that into our human experience. So what are we ashamed of? And you could take a little time and, create a little shadow list of your own. But these are all very common human experiences. We're ashamed of our anger. We're ashamed of temptations of the flesh, or weaknesses, being embarrassed. So if you're more of a Zen person, then you might be a little bit more embarrassed when you realize just how un-Zen you actually are. If you're a Christian, and you might have it be dealing with how unchristian you have been. And so this is all the things that we're ashamed of. And if you're watching this channel, you're probably on some kind of spiritual trip, and that makes it even more interesting in some ways, because now you've kind of cranked the game up a little bit. And so I ate too fast, and so I wasn't very mindful during my last lunch or breakfast, or I got angry, and I should be above all that. And so the spiritual work almost cranks up the game of shadow work to a very interesting level, which I'll come back to at the end. Now, to me, it's very fascinating when I started reading text, some of the ancient Hindu text, and how similar they were to the Christian Bible and their references to God. And, of course, there's subtle cultural differences, but the one thing that just kept coming back is that God's all-powerful. God is all-wise. God is omnipresent. So God is everywhere, all-knowing, and all-powerful. And that seems to be the one common element that seems to transcend culture. And most of the human beings on the planet seem to have some either suspicion or faith that such a type of God, of course, us very sophisticated types in science, we would probably refer this to a consciousness. It just, but it's the same idea. It's just using different words. And so, okay, if you're all powerful, all knowing, is there anything? If you're totally unlimited, is there anything that you lack? And of course, the answer is very surprising and points to the shadow, because what you lack is limitation. And if you have everything, the only thing you don't have is nothing. And if you're all powerful, then you don't have weakness. And, to me, a fascinating way, this is a very Jerry Maguire way of completing the cosmic equation. In other words, our human experience completes the cosmic equation by making the absolute truly absolute, because it actually has the ability to incorporate weakness and limitation, which is to say, our human experience completes the picture. So all these limitations of our human experience, they allow us to laugh. And if I was all-knowing, I would know the punchline, so nothing would be funny. How could I be surprised if I knew what was going to happen in the next second? How could I be excited? How could I experience, and then there's another side to this, how could I experience loss? And so all of our limitations are kind of bound up into what we are experiencing right now as being human beings. So here is the trick. And here, to me, is one of the most fascinating things about doing shadow work. And I'm going to read the end of the Neurotic's Guide before I'm finished with this. But you feel that there is a deep divinity to suffering, that our limitation, because it really completes the picture, has a meaning that's far more extensive than I experience while I'm actually deep into the suffering. And the paradox, of course, is the more deep I am into the suffering, the more I offer the unlimited. And so let me just read just a little bit. This is the very last part of Durandix's Guide. And so at the end of one of Alan Watts' lectures, he reminds us that when the universe plays, it plays at being everything else. And that is exactly what we're all doing right now. It's what you're doing when you're anxious, depressed, or annoyed. The universe plays by pretending to be what it's not, by using a maze of thoughts and thoughts about thoughts, in a system that has forgotten that these are just thoughts in the first place. Sort of the more you get lost in a strange way, the more you find yourself. The interpretive mind, and along with it, every aspect of suffering, is simply the universe pretending to be exactly what it isn't by installing a left brain that operates on this law of opposition that I go into. The playful, rascal nature of the universe is harmonious behind its surface, a benign and benevolent drama. But this is the one last part I want you to really use. It's a super helpful meditation. You cannot escape being what you are, even when you're trying to be what you think you are not. And that includes suffering, and it includes all the stuff we talk about when we talk about the shadow. And when you get that sensation going, the shadow becomes completely integrated into the whole because it completes it.